Lofts is located midway between New York and Philadelphia, about 10 miles south of Princeton and less than a mile from downtown Trenton. Why here? It's located in Roebling Center, next to Roebling Market and just a few blocks north of Roebling Avenue. Who are these Roeblings, and why is their name so prominent in Trenton history? Until 60 years ago, the Roeblings ran the largest business in Trenton, employing as many as 8,000 workers. Its location in Chambersburg was no accident, but the result of a strategic decision made by the business's founder, John A. Roebling, in 1844. Born in Prussia in 1806, John trained as a civil engineer in one of the top schools of his era. While still a student, he became fascinated with suspension bridges, filling his sketchbook with examples to be found in Europe. But instead of taking his final engineering exams, Roebling immigrated to Pennsylvania in 1831, settling near Pittsburgh in a small town called Saxonburg. After 7 years of farming in 1838, Roebling secured a job with the state of Pennsylvania, initially surveying railroad routes through the Allegheny Mountains. The first railroad in the Alleghenies was already operating. It connected rivers and canals on the eastern side of the state with those on the west. It provided a 36-mile portage through the mountains, hauling specially designed sectional canal boats. The inclines were too steep for conventional locomotives of the day. Instead, trains were hauled up using moving cables powered by fixed steam engines. The heavy loads and constant motion quickly wore out expensive hemp ropes. Roebling designed machinery to make wire rope instead, which he manufactured next to his house in Saxonburg. The wire rope lasted longer and was much more cost-effective than hemp, kick-starting the Roebling family business. Now that he had a reliable source of wire rope, Roebling could rekindle his childhood dream of building suspension bridges. The Pennsylvania Canal needed an aqueduct to cross the Allegheny River. Roebling won the contract, completing it in 1844. Even before the Allegheny Aqueduct was completed, Roebling won a second bid for the Smithfield Street Bridge across the Monongahela River in Pittsburgh. He realized he would need a factory that could make more and longer ropes than were possible in Saxonburg. He decided to relocate the business to Trenton, which was closer to major East Coast markets and provided easy access to deep water ports. He purchased a 25-acre farm in Chambersburg. The newly completed Delaware and Raritan Canal ran right past the property, where Route 129 is now located. With Trenton's improving ropes, Roebling was able to design and build a series of increasingly ambitious structures. This is the 1846 Lackawaxen Aqueduct. This, the 1848 Delaware Aqueduct. Then a breakthrough project, the Niagara Falls Suspension Bridge, the first with a truly long span of 821 feet, completed in 1855. In a century that celebrated progress, Roebling was now world famous. The next big bridge would be the Cincinnati-Covington, with a center span of 1,057 feet. Construction was interrupted by the Civil War, and it wasn't completed until 1867. Then the bridge that would cement Roebling's place in history, the Brooklyn Bridge, a span of 1,596 feet. John's eldest son, Washington, had returned from the Civil War following distinguished service as a combat engineer in the Union Army, and joined the family business to supervise construction. A freak accident at the construction site would end John A. Roebling's life soon after construction began, in July 1869. It would be up to Washington to build the bridge. John's will established the John A. Roebling Sons Company, splitting ownership among all of his sons, Washington, Ferdinand, Charles, and Edmund. Ferdinand and Charles became active managers of the Trenton wire rope manufacturing business. Completed in 1883, the Brooklyn Bridge is one of the most influential structures ever built. Forbes magazine named it number 4 among the 25 most important bridges in history, and first in the modern era. It triggered a half-century of suspension bridge building. In New York City alone, Roebling provided cables for the Williamsburg, Manhattan, and George Washington bridges. The Golden Gate Bridge, with a span of 4,200 feet, also used Trenton-made Roebling rope. But if bridge building was the foundation of the Roebling family business, the Sons Company did not live by bridges alone. Applications of the company's products read like a catalog of late 19th and early 20th century industrial progress. Roebling was an early investor in the Otis Elevator Company. As buildings with elevator service grew taller, so did the use of Roebling wire rope. During World War I, the company made hundreds of miles of anti-submarine netting, designed to keep German U-boats from attacking sensitive facilities. Not to mention cables for mooring marine mines, minesweeping, and hundreds of other military uses. The company built special plants for insulated wire rope made from copper, iron, and steel, used for electrical and communications applications. Smaller gauge cable was used in aircraft applications, including bracing, engine electrical systems, and control cables. Roebling supplied rope for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, among many other airplanes. Heavy gauge cable was used not only for bridges, but also for cranes, bracing buildings, and even, starting in the 1940s, for ski lifts. In 1974, the Roebling operation shut down permanently. Only the buildings remain. Our opportunity today is to re-inhabit them, to turn them into sustainable residences or workplaces for the new economy. By doing so, we honor the Roeblings and their special place in history as master engineers, builders, and innovators.